Welcome to This Explainer. You know, we throw the word democracy around literally every single day, right? In the news and arguments, online. But what actually makes a government democratic when you look under the hood? Let's unpack the actual mechanics of how this whole system works, and spoiler alert, why it sometimes totally fails. We all know Abraham Lincoln's classic definition, right? Government of the people, by the people, for the people. It's a gorgeous, elegant idea. It feels super straightforward. Just a system where the power rests firmly right in the hands of everyday folks like you and me. And that brings us directly to the standard textbook definition, a form of government in which rulers are elected by the people. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? You walk into a voting booth, you cast a ballot, and boom, democracy achieved. But as we're about to see, this super simple explanation is actually masking a much more complex and, frankly, sometimes deceptive reality. Section 1. The illusion of choice. So think about this for a second. If a country holds an election tomorrow and millions of people show up to vote, does that automatically mean they're free? Does the simple mechanical act of dropping a piece of paper into a box genuinely equal democratic power? Well, let's take Pakistan under General Pervez Musharraf as an example. Millions of people went to the polls. The thing is, the final decision-making power was still held tightly by unelected military officers. When the military can just override the ballot box like that, well, the rulers aren't actually elected, are they? They're really just using a vote as a clever disguise. We see a completely different kind of illusion in China. Elections do happen, but there's a massive catch. Only candidates officially approved by the ruling party are even allowed on the ballot. So you get to vote, sure, but you're basically choosing from a pre-selected menu. Without a free, genuine opposition, your choice was basically made for you before the election even kicked off. And we see yet another variation of this when we look at Mexico's history. For decades, a single party totally dominated the elections. Opposition parties technically existed on paper, sure, but the entire system was tilted so heavily against them that they had absolutely no real practical chance of winning. It's kind of like running a race where one runner gets to start, 10 feet from the finish line. So the difference between the mere illusion of voting and the reality of democratic power, it is massive. Merely holding an election is just a mechanical process. Actually holding real power and having a genuine choice, now that is a true democratic standard. If elections are manipulated, gate-kept, or totally uncompetitive, you don't actually have a democracy. You just have the theater of democracy. Section 2. The 4 pillars of true democracy. Now, these 4 pillars we're looking at aren't just polite suggestions. They are absolute, strict conditions that must be present all at the same time. First, major decisions absolutely must be made by elected leaders. Second, elections have to be free and fair, meaning you have a real shot at kicking the current rulers out. Third is universal adult franchise. And fourth, the rule of law. Seriously, if a government misses even one of these pillars, the whole structure just comes crushing down. Let's zoom in on that third pillar for a second, universal adult franchise. It demands absolute political equality. It literally does not matter what your religion is, your gender, your bank account balance, or your social class. If any demographic is legally excluded from the voting process, well, the government doesn't represent the people. It really only represents some of the people. Then we have the fourth pillar, the rule of law. And this is absolutely crucial to understand. Democracy isn't just about majority rule. Think about it. If 51% of the population votes to totally strip away the rights of the other 49%, that's not a democracy. That is literally the tyranny of the majority. True democracy requires that the law applies equally to every single person, fiercely protecting freedom of speech and fundamental human rights. Section 3. Weighing pros and cons. When we step back and evaluate this system objectively, we have to admit the flaws are very, very real. Democracy can be agonizingly slow, hugely expensive, and yeah, it can be prone to corruption and societal conflict. But the trade-off on the other side is pretty profound. It severely reduces the chance of catastrophic mistakes made by dictators, it gives us a peaceful way to resolve our differences, and most importantly, it allows us to legally fire our leaders if they aren't getting the job done. Actually, perhaps the most compelling argument in favor of democracy, despite it being slow, expensive, and sometimes a totally messy process, is that it fundamentally elevates the dignity of citizens. Democracy treats citizens as equals. It gives everybody a political voice and a baseline of respect. You aren't just some subject of the state, you are an active, equal participant in it. Section 4. Beyond the ballot box. Because true democracy requires way more than just showing up to vote every couple of years. It really is an active, living ecosystem. It demands our ongoing participation in local issues, a deep societal commitment to equality and justice, and constant accountability, meaning we have to hold our leaders' feet to the fire between election cycles. Voting, that's really just the entry fee. These other elements, that's the actual work. If you take away just one single thing from this explainer today, let it be this core idea from our source material. Democracy works because it allows people to participate in power, rather than just being ruled without their consent. Even with all the flaws, the endless conflicts, the massive expenses, it is the only system that actually grants you the ability to shape your own future. So I want to leave you with a thought to really reflect on as you look at your own community and your own government today. Take a hard look at the structures around you and ask yourself, are we actively participating in power, or are we just being ruled with our consent? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the tough questions, keep looking past the illusions, and never stop learning.